The young professor incident occurred on April 15th, 2023, at a baseball game between the Savannah Bananas and their perpetual opponents, the Party Animals. Now, if you know anything about the Bananas, you'll know that this man, Jesse Cole, has done some fascinating and interesting innovations to the sport of baseball to make it more interesting, more watchable, more fun. This includes changing the team name to the Bananas, as well as having a silly mascot named Split, and having 9 different rules that make the game more fun. Now, today's video will be focusing on Rule 9, the Showdown Tiebreaker, which is essentially the Bananas' answer to extra innings. Now, some of you might say, hey, they're like the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball. How in the world can we take a team playing baseball seriously when they have a pitcher on stilts and they do all sorts of silly things during the game? And I want to go ahead and bury that idea that this is more akin to professional wrestling and sports entertainment as an idea that this is not serious competition. Now, they don't really sell serious competition because it's only 2 teams, so they do some interesting things. Now, 2 of the people involved in this incident, one is the young professor. He has had some work in professional wrestling. He's the announcer. And the other is the Bananas catcher, Bill Leroy, the perpetual longtime Banana, Bill Leroy. Now, normally in the sport of baseball, you have 9 fielders, but in banana ball, when there's a showdown, when there's overtime, they only give you 1 fielder in addition to the pitcher. And basically, you're going to play 3-on-1, 1-out baseball, where you either strike the guy out, or you get the guy out, or he scores a inside the park or outside the park home run. Now, if he scores outside the park, game's over. But inside the park, you keep going. Now, once you get to the 3rd showdown, they've taken away your other fielder, and they've loaded the bases with 3 runners. And so then they've kind of painted themselves in the corner here where they do allow for ties. So this is basically what the situation is going to look like. You're in a showdown. It's the overtime. It's 3 players versus 1 player. Now you're thinking to yourself, there's just no way anybody doesn't score on this. And honestly, I thought that myself too until I saw a showdown. I have to say, it is the most fascinating innovation in baseball. If you've never seen a showdown before, this essentially is what it looks like. It's the pitcher versus batter, one-on-one. He's got a fielder, but the fielder has to be in the confines of the infield, which is basically what you see here. That's a second showdown, so they've taken the other fielder away. Now it's just essentially pitcher, catcher versus batter. So in the case of a ball 4, if you're familiar with banana ball, you know they sprint and it becomes a live ball. In ball 4 in banana ball, the catcher has to hand the ball off to the pitcher, and the pitcher starts chasing them around the bases. Now here we see a contact. We've made contact. It's gone into the outfield. The pitcher is sprinting to get to that ball. The question is, can he get to the ball in time, and does he have enough velocity and aim on his throw to get the guy out? Now, of course, the answer here is yes. And this is quite honestly a very surprising occurrence that does happen in the sport of banana ball, which makes the showdown so interesting to watch, so interesting to see, because you would think they're just going to get the guy out. Now, we see the young professor here. He is essentially announcing what's going to happen. We've just concluded the 2nd showdown. We're going to the 3rd showdown. I skipped the first one because nothing of any interest happened except both teams managed to get an inside the park home run. And so there's no point in showing that, because I did want to show you that players do get called out in this game. So the Bananas have put on their best players, their best pitcher, their best catcher, and now it's essentially up to the Party Animals to win this game. They're going to have 3 runners on base. It's going to be pitcher and catcher versus the batter. They've got to get an out and whatever runs score count. So that's what makes the 3rd showdown so interesting. But of course, they have painted themselves in the corner that if you go to 3 showdowns, they don't do anything more after that. I think they should just honestly keep the thing going. Maybe reduce the number of strikes needed to strike a batter out to 2. Who knows? Might be a more interesting way to do things. So now we're going to see the Party Animals come to bat, and I'll let the announcers take over from here.
Second, Hampton at first. And the Tours leader in on-base percentage, OPS, runs scored, RBIs, doubles, homers, and ball 4 sprints at the dish. The Party Animals have the best player up at the plate for this scenario, but here's where it gets interesting. Jake Skull so far hitless against Danny Hosley on the tour. The best pitcher against the best hitter thus far. And that is a really nice backdoor bender. 1-2. And it looked like a changeup yanked down and in. And of course, because why wouldn't it, the count runs full. Runners can't take off until the ball is put in play. Payoff pitch, popped into foul territory. Bill Leroy, Bill Leroy, Bill Leroy, Bill Leroy, Bill Leroy. Bill Leroy gets destroyed by the young professor and can't get to the ball. Boy, second high-stakes, high-speed collision we've had of the night. And that one was at the biggest moment possible. Yeah, Bill visibly frustrated with what just happened there. That was definitely something you did not expect to have happen on a 3-2 count, no less. Just means more drama for us. Another 3-2. And it is ball 4. Here comes the chase. The ball has to be handed off the chase. The ball has to be handed off the chase. The ball has to be handed off the chase. The chase. The ball has to be handed off to Hosley. It's a sloppy handoff. Danny now has to try and chase down Jake Skull. Baber has scored. Swan scores. It was Tanner Thomas at first. He touches home. Skull behind him. And it is 8-4 Party Animals. Bananas need to clear the bases.
The Bananas must answer back or hit one outside of the park to win the whole thing. This is the final half inning, ladies and gentlemen, of the final showdown. So let's go, Bananas Nation. Make some noise.
Boy, what a butterfly effect right there. It was going to be a tough play for Bill Leroy, but certainly a catchable ball in foul territory before the young professor ended up in his path. And I think Danny Hosley, it's just hard to get right back on the mound immediately, bear down like that. I think that's why you saw a ball there high to Jake Skull. Just one of those situations you don't even mentally prepare for. And unfortunately, it works out for the Party Animals in this situation. That's a fact. Yeah, Hosley was right there next to Bill trying to track down that foul ball. Then he huffs it back to the mound. Then the exchange on the chase isn't clean, and now it's up to Michael Deeb. We need an inside the Parker for the Bananas to tie the game. He lines it to left center, and here comes the most dramatic play of the night. Deeb approaching second base. Chase Acuff gets to the ball. Gets it to Brett Helton. The throw to Lytle is not caught. Deeb slides in. We're tied 8-8. And for the second time in Banana Bowl history, that's how the game's gonna end.
That is unbelievable. Michael Deeb actually rounding second, comes up a little lame, and Brett.
And so that's basically what ends up happening. They painted themselves in the corner with these rules of only having 3 showdown rounds. Probably need to expand more, but it ends in a tie. Had no choice about the second time in Bananas history this had happened. And it's a real interesting incident. You see how angry and upset Bill Leroy was. Now, crazily enough, the Bananas have done this during the game when it wasn't so serious, when it was early on in the game. They've had their mascot sit in the outfield, random places. Here you see him sitting at the edge of the infield. And somehow he has never been involved in a play. As long as he sat out there, usually it was an inning or so. So it's actually surprising to see that many players in foul territory just able to interfere with the progress of the game. And I gotta say, Jesse, if you're watching, I noticed something there particular. You don't wear any ties with that tuxedo of yours. So I'm wondering, why in the world do we have ties in Banana Ball? We shouldn't have ties. You probably should amend those rules, because it is kind of weird to see a tie. The showdown is so exciting. I think everybody would love to keep going with it. It looks like the players love to keep playing. And honestly, if we ever do get a serious Banana Ball league with multiple teams and multiple cities, we might eventually have to eliminate Rule 8. Unless you just love the idea of having Steve Bartman type situations. I mean, I could see eventually, if this sport ever does take off, which I think, if I had to place a bet, I'd say, yeah, there will be a league. Minor league owners will want to do this. And of course, the young professor is still shaken up about this. I'm sure he doesn't like what happened. Now, it does suck to see baseball players actually taking their craft seriously and have some incident like that happen. But if you ever get the chance to see the Bananas, do so. I managed to score some tickets for Oklahoma City. They sold out 2 games, 18,000 seats in 45 minutes. And if you actually like this idea, this sport, come to Banana Baseball on Reddit. As you see here, we'll just basically repost a lot of things they have on Twitter, a lot of videos on YouTube, and just talk about the Bananas and what we think. We had a poll on there. They don't think we should have ties, so let's get rid of the ties. And I'll see you next video.